Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Caccera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Caccera.
Welcome in, Joe Caccera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you very much for those that are watching us on the live feed on Facebook. We appreciate that. Just a quick reminder, we try to keep to a schedule as much as we can, as well as we can, and we'll typically do our show Mondays right around 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, we like to try to stick to right around 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. For those that follow us on Facebook, we appreciate that very much. However, this is a podcast. As much as we love the people that follow us on Facebook, continue doing that. That's a great, great resource for us, and I hope for you. But the best thing to do is download the podcast if you haven't already done so. So you go to iTunes, just type in Real Estate Radio Live, go to Google+, Stitcher. You could go to our website, which is RERL-1584.Elijah. That's RERL-1584.Elijah. And you can get the podcast there as well. For those that may be listening for the first time or checking in for the first time, our show, the focus is education and information. So for almost 8 years, and I think we're nearing 1,600 shows, the focus is really providing information and education to the consumer in and around real estate for the most part. However, we're big believers in the community, so we have a lot of shows that aren't necessarily related to real estate, but some really interesting topics we'll continue to cover. All right, with that, let me invite my guest in today, Mr. Elijah Caldwell, and he is with Timeless LLC. Elijah, good to have you here.
Yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Welcome in. So we met a couple months ago, and I was impressed with this young gentleman, what he's doing, what he's up to. So what better than to at least have him on the podcast and see if we could really expose some of the great stuff he's doing, some of the great work, and we're going to dive into that in just a minute. So, Elijah, if you could, for the listeners, if you could just take a minute or so and give a little bit about your background and then what led into you, creating Timeless LLC, and then we'll jump into the topics.
For sure. Thank you. So,
welcome.
My name is Elijah Caldwell. I'm 27 years young, born in Stockton, California, raised in San Jose ever since preschool, and Leeds to Dartmouth to Branham to San Jose State. Actually, Sacramento State before San Jose State, but then I finished at San Jose State as a Spartan. Graduated with my BA in Global Studies, and in college I just had this idea. What about trying to start a company?
I love it.
Yeah. And I just kind of followed my voice, Inside of me I had this whisper that was maybe on volume 1, where all the other voices in the world, all the other people trying to convince me to and fro, maybe had their volumes on 97. And so I just started turning mine up one day, and it led to this timeless path. I've been on it ever since, and it's been going well. I'm here, even though one day it was just an idea, and so.
That's good.
Yeah, it's going well.
Well, I'm a big idea person, so I love it. And when we met, we spent some time, and I was certainly impressed with the company, what you're doing. And anytime, let's face it, a lot of us are in businesses, and most of us help people in some form or another, right? We help people in one form or another. But when you take it to a deeper level or another level where you could do some special things for people, that's really exciting. So tell us a little bit about Timeless LLC and what's the objective, and if you give us the big vision, like this is really what I'm trying to accomplish with this.
Right, so the big vision, great question, by the way, thank you. My vision, the timeless vision, is that one day everyone successfully learns from failure.
I love it.
Yes. Yep. And so the direct approach, right, the tactical approach of what we do for people, we offer a timeless coaching program to help people never make the same mistake.
Okay.
And so it works on a pretty simple process. It's a 1 hour, 1.5 hour, maybe 2 hours at the most coaching session. But we move through objectively, and essentially I just figure a way to understand what makes successful people successful.
Okay.
Successful people never make the same mistake. That doesn't mean they don't make any.
They usually don't duplicate it, though.
Exactly,
right, repeat it.
Exactly, yeah. Right. And so what if I could figure out how I figured it out and teach that to others?
Right.
And so I never thought it would be what it is, but it's now what it's becoming. So essentially I've just identified what I worked with and what worked for me and tried to teach others, and it's been working, right? So the concept, it's called inverse relationship.
Okay.
So the inverse relationship that we have with ourselves is that oftentimes the things that we're not are the things that we want to be. And so starting with the youth, which is who our target market is, people who are seeking to be better, a lot of times we don't know who we all the way are. Like, who am I in the world? What a big question, right? And so a great place to start is who you're not. And that's what we figured out. Most young people, even though they might not know exactly who they are, they definitely know who they're not. We start there and identify the inverse relationship of who they can be, and then we send them in that direction. We call it the inverse direction program.
That's great.
Thank you.
So is there a combination, Elijah, of are you constantly interviewing or conversing, engaging with successful people, and then that is helping you provide some of the dialogue and feedback and education processes, if you will, when you work with the coaching clients? How does that work?
Well, I'm a student of life, first and foremost, so I feel that always learning. Yes, exactly, right. And then the formal approach to communicating is one that I've taken to heart, because instead of speaking as much as I can, I do my best to listen as much as possible. And that path has led me to be around people who love to share, right? And for those who love to share, I receive their voices, I receive their knowledge, and it's guided me to build this kind of understanding that I can present to the youth. And oftentimes there's such a gap, such a big bridge to be bridged when the knowledge is trying to be passed from the older generation to the younger. But I personally feel that I have an old soul. So it's just something that I recognize as how to formulate and then go from there. So to your point of the people in my circle with the success that they've experienced, I take it up as a sponge. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I love this stuff. It's powerful stuff. I mean, I've for years read so much on, I can't even go through the different series of, some people will call it a motivational book, some people educational book, some, business, some philosophy. There's all kinds of things that go into it. But what have you found so far? I'm always interested. What are some of the things specifically that get in people's way that hold them back from potentially, tapping into whatever their potential may be?
Great question. So ourselves, first and foremost.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. As much as we may want to project the consequences or challenges onto others, they most often resonate within ourselves. So what I found through our research is that just as much as the problem or the challenge exists within the self, so does the solution. And so what we do as coaches is just help them identify, them being people who are seeking our help them identify what it is and then move them in that direction. Otherwise, then they're thinking that it's some external or tangible thing that they can reach and attain to fix their problem, but it's not really. It's always something that we can start and we can finish ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So is this, Elijah, is this more working on the inner soul, spirit, philosophy? You could have all kinds of different, topics or articulations of it, but is this more so helping people really tap into the things they may want to do or become more secure in some different aspects of life? Or do they come to you and say, gosh, I've always wanted to start a business and I don't know if I have the willpower, I don't know if I have the right mindset, or so is it mostly working on internally on someone? Talk a little bit about that.
Right. So the dual approach there, right? Internally, yes, 100%. It's for somebody seeking to reestablish their identity in a direction that they can fulfill purposefully.
Got it.
In the business sense, it's definitely something that's similar, but more to the specific to the identity of the company itself. So maybe they've hit a speed bump, things of that nature. We coach people on a business basis, agents, things of that nature. But what it comes down to when it's about what they do on a day-to-day that differentiates who they were versus who they will be, it's always in the self. That resonates within the self. But it starts within the identity. So to your point, it is more of a spiritual journey for those who are on that path. It is more of a financial journey for those who are on that path, or a business mindset. But me as an entrepreneur, I meet entrepreneurs rather than the top CEOs, right? So I'm not there yet. But for the young CEOs who are seeking to establish themselves, I can redirect their path from what they think they should do based on conventional dialogue to what their true self tells them to do based on the unconventional tactics and innate instincts they have born within them, right? So we just bring you out of you, introduce you to yourself.
Very good.
Yeah.
One of the things about this, about coaching, about education, and I'm a big, big fan. I'm sure people have heard it for years of me doing this radio and podcast, is investing in ourselves, Elijah. It's amazing to me and we've heard of the analogies before, but it's worth repeating. The money that we spend on, cars and clothes and food and coffee, and we could go down the list of the things, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it is amazing to me, then when you ask someone or the suggestion of, how much money have you invested in yourself in terms of reading, education, coaching, which I'm a huge believer of coaching,
right?
Both business and personal, in a lot of different ways. But, it's funny still to this day, are there still objections like, oh my God, coaching, this is a cost associated with that, or are people more receptive to that these days?
It's an interesting question because there's not one answer.
Okay.
But I must say that within the token there are those who are willing to learn and those who know where they want to obtain knowledge from.
Got it. Okay.
Some people just want to learn from wherever the knowledge can come from, but some are more specifically directed towards obtaining knowledge from a particular institution or person.
Okay.
So for those who are more open to knowledge outside of the conventional sense of where it comes from, those are more likely the people who we can help because they're not necessarily driven or stuck to the path that says here's the only way you can receive new knowledge. So especially as a younger person, right? I have my experiences and that's all I built upon to create this. So for somebody older who I definitely help, other than myself or a younger generation, they can see my experience as something authentic,
right,
as opposed to perceived, because older people are older and they have more experience in a sense if they've obtained the knowledge and the lessons learned from it. That's all I've done, just squeeze all the juice out of the fruit, right, from all my experiences. That's
very good.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the psychology behind this, and I know you said basically we get in our own way. That's kind of the overarching, we get in our own way. I want to talk a little bit about kind of traditional education process, which really has changed the last several years, and I think it's going to continue to change. And I guess what I mean by that is sometimes you have a person who might say, or, a society or generation that says, no matter what, get out and get your education, your degree, which is fine. I mean, I love, again, we're talking about education. One of the beautiful things about learning is no one could ever take that away from you.
Right.
You learn it, you soak it up,
right.
Right. But you're seeing more and more entrepreneurial classes, entrepreneur type thing, and I saw a statistic that nearly 50% of people will be self-employed probably by the year 2030. And so it's amazing. I guess what my point around is that what is as you're coaching and working with these people, is traditional kind of conventional education, the process of getting a degree, do this, do that, and go get a job, is there still a lot of that, or are you seeing more people wanting to venture out a little bit in this entrepreneurial world that we live in today?
Great question. So the path exists for the conventional option, but it doesn't have as much validation because generations ahead of us have walked down the same path and told us things not right with it. Right? So in that same token, what we see as young entrepreneurs seeking a new way is a way to believe in ourselves and be validated for it. So on that token, yes, I mean, there are ways to be fulfilled in that endeavor. But when it comes to learning, at least the conventional approach versus maybe something that may be more beneficial, learning gives you the knowledge, right? A lot of institutions successfully give it to you. You can pass the test, you know it. The gap comes with the application. And that's what we do as a specialist because, yeah, you can tell me don't quit, don't this, don't that, but what do I do?
That's right.
Right. Yeah. And so oftentimes you can watch motivational videos on YouTube for hours and hours. Don't quit, don't stop, don't give up. Okay, well then what? Okay, I'm not going to do any of those things. Okay, so then what do I do?
You get all fired up and grab a donut and hit the couch. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break for the podcast. So right before we do that, though, if someone's interested, they want to reach out to you, find you, what's the best way to reach you?
Right, by phone directly.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, via text message preferably.
All right.
My phone number, area code 408-417-5416.
Right.
Yeah, that's the best way.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, as we always do, for just 1 minute. So for those following us on Facebook, stick with us. We'll be back with you to continue the show in just about a minute. Thanks.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Getting ready to buy or sell a home in 30, 60, or 90 days? Check out BundleSelect.com to find out how you could save 20% or more on your entire transaction, real estate, lending, and title. With BundleSelect.com, technology and a personal concierge are at your service to save you time and money. BundleSelect's hand-picked team of experts will compete for your business so you'll save thousands of dollars by bundling real estate, lending, and title services. BundleSelect.com gives you all the control, including using your own realtor. I'm Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live, and I have been on the radio educating consumers for years. I'm here to tell you BundleSelect.com is the best way to save money on real estate. By bundling services, you could save tens of thousands of dollars. This savings model could save you money on your move, lower your interest rate, or cover your closing costs. Visit BundleSelect.com. That's BundleSelect.com.
The estimated minimum savings are based on a comparison with the national average. Individual results may vary, and the estimated savings are not guaranteed. Bundle Select Inc. is a licensed real estate broker. California Bureau of Real Estate Broker License Number 004666902.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's topic or guests, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you again for those that are following us on Facebook. I appreciate that very, very much. And before I forget, I like to really just thank everyone for the people as you listen to this podcast. If you're watching us on Facebook, if you're downloading it later, thank you all very much. We have thousands and thousands of downloads a month. I never want that to go unnoticed and unappreciated, and I just tell you that I get hundreds over, every month I get, 75 to 100 plus emails or texts about, things that the show helped them and how they learned something and they were introduced to something or someone or something they didn't know, or they saved some money, or they made a decision. And so that's why I do it. It's a lot of fun, but even more so, the most important thing is our passion is education and information. And this is one of the great reasons we have Elijah on today with Timeless LLCs, because we're very similar in that way. And, whether it's through the medium of what we're doing now, through a podcast, whether it's through coaching, whether it's through education, reading, no matter what it is, the wonderful thing is the more and more you know and understand, the better chance you have at success. And I know a lot, you look at all kinds of statistics, but Elijah, I forget, they're out there, but you probably know them better than I do. But I remember it's something just as simple as, if a person reads, just someone that reads a book an average 3 or 4 times a year versus someone that doesn't, or someone that reads on a regular basis versus someone that doesn't. It's amazing how that equates to some kind of success in life. And I'm not talking just about money. Some kind of success on this whole learning process.
You're right. I think a lot of it has to do with those who don't believe they know it all. Some
of
us,
good point.
Right. Some of us get to our position and we're like, this is comfort, this is happiness. Who cares about learning anything else? I'm here, right? Not knowing that the mind has to continue to be sharpened in order to refine that happiness or perfected vision, or but that's just the path. Not everybody takes it. Not everybody is a student of life. Not everybody's a lifelong learner. But for those of us who are,
So let's get into more about the details of the program, the coaching program. You're helping a lot of people. A lot of people are having success. Is this for anyone, Elijah, or would you say, Joe, this is is there a target audience? As people listen to this or watch the podcast or listen to it, download it later, is it for anyone? Is it for someone specifically on a path? What might you say, hey, listen, if you're talking to them directly, looking right at them, and they're listening to you later, are there 3 or 4 or 5 things you might say, hey, if you're searching for this, this might be a good fit for you?
Right. Well, we really only have one criteria for anybody seeking to...
You make it simple.
Yeah, for sure. That's the best way. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, right? And so anybody who sees themselves as imperfect. Right? Essentially, because...
We got a big market out there.
Yeah, But the thing is, for those who see themselves as perfect, we cannot help them. There's no room for growth. They haven't been trying new things to make new mistakes, right? And then we can help them henceforth if they're seeking to learn from that perspective. But anybody who knows, I'm not perfect. I got these ways I want to be better, but may not know how, then we're for you, because it's about what do you do when you know what you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's you go on YouTube, you don't want to get motivated, I want to do all these things. Well, we can give you something to do at 12 o'clock on Wednesday next week, because that's the direct implementation, rather than tell you don't do this and don't do that and don't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's exciting. And I could tell, those out there, I've been a big learner and a fan of that myself, and I try to practice as much as I can. And there's several things in my life that I look back that I've wanted to do and achieve and conquer in different, whatever you want to call it. And most of the time, there's things you have to do to get to those steps. And talk a little bit about the fear factor. Why do people, I think it's kind of funny, like public speaking, for instance. My daughter was all excited because that was one of her fears, one of her biggest fears, and she finally conquered it and had a public speaking class. And, she was sweating, but of course she did well at the end.
Right.
But my point here is I think it actually, next to death, I think that's what people fear most, public speaking. Kind of what you and I are doing now, although we don't have people in front of us, thousands listening later.
Right.
But fear, is that something you guys deal with a lot, that word?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, fear is the opposite. It's the door to reach your ultimate love, how we see it.
Okay.
Right? Because the way we teach it, you have to face everything and rise, FEAR, right?
Okay.
And so when you can do that, then you accept what your life should be rather than the self-imposed fear that many of us live in the shadow of.
Got it.
So it's a spectrum, right? Love is on one side, fear is on the other. When you have the ultimate love for yourself, you're free in your being, you can be who you are. But that fear puts the shadow on your light. And many people have a light. Everyone has one, but we just don't know how to turn it on.
Right.
And so that's what we do for people, right? Show you how to turn on the light, introduce you to yourself, your true self, rather than who your world tells you can be.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is for anybody. What I love about it, too, is, you have people that, were raised in very, very healthy, functional, loving families, and they struggle. And you have people that were raised in some very, very traumatic and troubled families, and they either struggle or succeed, too. So the beautiful part about this, when you decide to make a move and improve yourself, what I want you to do, if you can, for a couple minutes, talk about what best you can, and you're going to do a better job than I am, I know that for sure, what it does for a person when you unleash some of these obstacles that allow you to move to the side of love. And maybe you could talk to some of the people you've seen and how the differences and changes in their life when they get to this point.
Great question. Big question. Great question.
Yeah, I know.
But I'll just tell you a quick story. So oftentimes, not everyone knows how to connect with their inner child.
Okay.
But they exist. And so sometimes what I tell my clients is, imagine your 5-year-old self sitting next to you.
Mm-hmm.
They would be so proud of you. I think they would. And the thing is, we have to find out how. And when we can identify that how, it's just like your child self giving yourself now the biggest high five off the highest mountain because you did it, right?
Right. We
have to be their best friend to make sure that their vision comes to reality because it's our responsibility. The 5-year-old Elijah's like, yay, good job. The 5-year-old Joe's like, yay, good job, right? And so what we're looking at now is who's my next chapter gonna think of me.
Got it. Okay. That's very good. A great exercise for me, a lot of people who are driven always, you have to be careful, right? Because, okay, I've done this, now I need to do this, or I've done this, or I could get better, stronger, whatever it is. And that's not necessarily bad, but some of the challenges I have sometimes, for instance, is I'm like, I'm not quite sure if I've done the things I've needed to do this year, even though I've written them down, I've set my goals and stuff. So an exercise that's been really good for me is I'll go back and actually take a look back 12 months and kind of like almost the inner child, I'll look at that stuff, right? It's amazing.
Right.
And then when you go through that exercise, I'm like, man, I did pretty good.
Right. And that's the thing. You said it yourself, right? Those of us who have ambition, we get so caught up in what we want because we can attain it, right? We're that competitive spirit who's like, oh, I have the drive. But essentially, if we don't thank the person who wanted it, then what are we wanting for?
Right.
So that's what it comes down to. Yeah,
that's very good. Well, before we close out, how would you summarize Timeless LLC? What would you say to the person out there that's either struggling or thinking, gosh, I just can't quite figure out how to make that next step? Or what would be the words of wisdom?
Great question.
Yeah.
First and foremost, your true self exists and knows what you're supposed to be, except for the only reason why it may not have as much light as it can is because we have to open that door. So oftentimes walking through that door is the hardest thing in the world, but because it's hard means it's worth it. And that's just what you got to stand up to, because your true self deserves you to earn all that you deserve. And it's about placing yourself in that position to say, I deserve all these things. I deserve these things.
Right.
But the balance or the gap in between is all about earning it. Because if it's earned, then it will be deserved, and then it will be had.
Very good.
Yeah.
Before we go, again, one more time, best place to reach you. How do you do that?
By phone.
Okay.
I mean, you can also email me at Elijah.Caldwell at CBNorCal.
Okay.
Other than that, phone is the best way. 408-417-5416. Timeless motivation, the highest of flight quality.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, very good. This is Joe Cachera of the Real Estate Radio Live. Elijah, thank you. Great show. A lot of good information. For today, we're going to check out, but thank you for those that are following us on Facebook. And as always, thank you for those that take the time to download and listen to the podcast. Until next time, take care of yourself. Have a great afternoon.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com.